where energy really comes from, the cellular science of metabolism. Over the past several episodes, we've been exploring the different factors that influence metabolism and energy in the body. We've talked about how sleep supports metabolic recovery, how movement helps regulate fuel use, and how consistent rhythms over time allow the body to build resilience. We've looked at the rhythms that support metabolism from the outside, but today we're going to look inside the system itself. Each of those pieces plays an important role in supporting energy, but underneath all of those lifestyle factors is a deep question that often goes unexplored. How does the body actually produce energy in the first place? When most people think about energy, they usually think about calories. We hear conversations about eating more calories, burning calories through exercise, or balancing calories to support metabolism. But the body's energy system works at a much deeper level than calorie math alone. Energy is not simply something we consume. It is something the body must constantly produce inside its cells. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought, and every movement depends on this process happening thousands of times every second. Understanding how the body produces energy at the cellular level can help us see metabolism in a completely different way. It explains why nourishment, sleep, movement, and recovery all influence how we feel from day to day. Because before energy can support the body's systems, it first has to create inside the cell. Before we go further, a quick word of wisdom. I'm not your doctor, and this podcast isn't a substitute for professional medical advice. I'll share what the research says, what I've learned, and what might support you. But before making changes to your diet or health routine, always check in with a qualified healthcare provider or practitioner. One of the most common health complaints people describe today is simple fatigue. Many individuals feel tired even after a full night of sleep. Energy dips throughout the day, focus becomes more difficult, and recovery after activity can take longer than it once did. Even people who are trying to take care of their health sometimes notice that their energy simply doesn't feel as stable as they expect. At first glance, this can feel confusing. We often assume that energy problems must come from not eating enough food or from not getting enough rest. While those factors certainly matter, they don't always explain why energy feels inconsistent for so many people. Dr. Casey Means describes this pattern in Good Energy as part of a broader energy crisis affecting modern health. The issue is not necessarily that the body lacks fuel. In many cases, the body is receiving plenty of calories. Instead, the deeper challenge often lies in how effectively the body is able to convert that fuel into usable energy. This is where metabolism becomes more than a discussion about calories or food intake. The real work of energy production happens inside the cells of the body. Nutrients from food must be processed, transformed, and converted into a form of energy that cells can actually use. When that process functions well, energy tends to feel steady and reliable. But when the system becomes strained or inefficient, the body may struggle to produce energy even when adequate fuel is present. Understanding this shift from thinking about calories to understanding cellular energy can help us see metabolism in a very different light. Because the question is not simply how much fuel enters the body. The deeper question is how well the body is able to convert that fuel into usable energy inside the cell. To understand how the body produces energy, it helps to look more closely at what is happening inside the cell. Every cell in the body requires energy to carry out its work. Your heart needs energy to beat continuously. Your brain requires energy to process information and maintain focus. Muscles need energy to contract and move the body. Even processes we rarely think about, repairing tissues, regulating hormones, and supporting immune function, depend on a steady supply of cellular energy. This energy does not come directly from food itself. Instead, nutrients from the food we eat must be converted into a usable form of fuel inside the cell. Scientists often refer to this usable energy as a molecule called ATP. You can think of ATP simply as the body's energy currency, the form of fuel cells use to power their work. Whenever a cell needs to perform a task, it draws on this stored energy to carry out the process. But the real key to this transformation lies in a remarkable structure found inside our cells. Inside nearly every cell in the body are tiny structures called mitochondria. These mitochondria function almost like miniature power plants. Their role is to take nutrients from carbohydrates, fats, and proteins and convert them into the usable energy the cell needs. When mitochondria are functioning efficiently, the body is able to produce energy smoothly and consistently. Cells receive the fuel they need to carry out their work, and many of the systems that regulate metabolism begin to function more steadily. This is why cellular health plays such an important role in metabolism. Energy production is not simply about how much food we consume, but how effectively the body is able to convert that nourishment into usable energy at the cellular level. Mitochondrial health is one of the central factors influencing how our bodies produce and manage energy. When mitochondria function well, cells are able to generate energy efficiently, and many of the body's systems tend to operate more smoothly. Energy feels steadier, focus improves, the body is better able to adapt physical and mental demands. But like any system responsible for production energy, mitochondria also respond to the conditions around them. Their function can be supported or strained depending on the signals the body receives through nourishment, sleep, movement, stress, and environmental exposures. And when those signals begin placing too much strain on the system, the body's cellular batteries may struggle to produce energy as efficiently as they once did. Understanding that possibility helps explain why energy levels can sometimes feel inconsistent, even when someone is trying to take care of their health. Because the real question is not simply whether the body receives fuel, it's whether the cellular batteries responsible for producing energy are able to function in the way they were designed. If energy feels unstable, fatigue becomes more common. Mental clarity may fluctuate throughout the day, and recovery after activity can take longer than expected. Dr. Robert Lustig discusses this idea in Metabolical when describing metabolic dysfunction. In many cases, the challenge is not simply how much fuel the body receives, but how well cells are able to process and use that fuel. Several factors can influence this process over time. Highly processed foods can place additional strain on metabolic pathways. Chronic stress can shift how the body prioritizes energy use. Poor sleep can interfere with the repair processes that support cellular health. Environmental toxins may also increase the workload placed on the body's detoxification systems. None of these factors act in isolation. Over time, they can begin layering together, creating conditions where the body's energy systems have to work harder just to maintain balance. When that happens, the mitochondria, the cellular structures responsible for producing energy, may become less efficient at converting nutrients into usable fuel. The body may still be receiving food and calories, but the cells may struggle to produce energy in the steady way the body needs. This is why conversations about metabolism often extend beyond nutrition alone. Energy production is influenced by many of the rhythms we've been discussing throughout this series: sleep, nourishment, movement, stress regulation, and the environments we live in. These patterns send signals to the body that either support or strain the cellular systems responsible for producing energy. And when those signals begin working together in supportive ways, the body often becomes much more capable of producing the steady energy required for daily life. There is also a deeper perspective that can shape how we think about energy and life itself. Science allows us to understand many of the remarkable systems that sustain the human body. We can study how cells produce energy, how mitochondria convert nutrients into usable fuel, and how different biological processes work together to support life. But behind all of those processes is a deeper truth that Scripture reminds us of again and again. Life itself is a gift. In Acts chapter 17, verse 25, the Apostle Paul describes God as the one who gives everyone life and breath and everything else. In that short phrase, Paul captures something profound about the nature of life. The breath in our lungs, the beating of our hearts, and even the energy moving through our cells ultimately come from the God who created and sustains all things. Understanding the biology of the body does not diminish that truth. In many ways, it deepens our appreciation for it. When we begin to see how carefully the body is designed, how countless cellular processes work together to sustain life, we gain a greater sense of the wisdom woven into creation. Every moment, our bodies are carrying out intricate processes that allow us to think, move, breathe, and live. And yet, most of those processes happen quietly without us ever noticing them. Recognizing this can shift the way we think about caring for our health. Instead of approaching the body as something we must constantly control or perfect, we can begin to see it as something entrusted to us. Nourishment, rest, movement, and recovery become ways of stewarding the life we've been given rather than striving to force the body into a certain outcome. In that sense, caring for our health becomes less about pressure and more about participation in the design God created. The remarkable systems that sustain life, right down to the cellular batteries producing energy inside our cells, reflect the wisdom of the one who gives life and breath to all. As we wrap up today's conversation, the most important idea to carry with you is that energy begins at the cellular level. Metabolism is often discussed in terms of calories, but the body's energy is far more complex and remarkable than that. Every moment, cells throughout the body are working to convert nutrients into the energy required to support life. When those cellular systems are functioning well, energy tends to feel steadier and more reliable. The body becomes better able to adapt to daily demands, recover from activity, and maintain the countless processes that sustain health. But when the body's cellular batteries begin to struggle, the effects can often be felt throughout many different systems. Fatigue may become more common. Focus can fluctuate. Recovery may take longer than expected. This is why the rhythms we've been discussing throughout this series matter so much. Consistent nourishment, restorative sleep, supportive movement, and thoughtful stress management all send signals that help the body maintain healthy cellular energy production. Over time, these patterns create conditions where the body can produce energy more efficiently and respond more effectively to the demands of daily life. Sometimes people also find that additional nutritional support can help along the way. Foundational nutrients, minerals, and metabolic cofactors can support the body's energy systems when daily demands are high. I've linked the supplement brands I personally trust in my Fullscript storefront if you ever want to explore those options. But as always, the most important foundation will be the rhythms we've talked about throughout this series. Because metabolism isn't shaped by a single decision or 1 week of effort. It's shaped by the patterns we practice over time. So until next time, friend, stay nourished, stay steady, and choose wellness one thoughtful step at a time.